1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
We should get rid of that music. Yeah, I mean, my God. Good Lord.
Yeah.
It's been, I mean, come
Super
on.
Mario Brothers called. They want their game soundtrack back.
Wait, I'm getting into the shot here.
Oh, okay, all right.
Okay. Hi, everybody. It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday. That means Chris Potter's here.
Yep.
Oh, we seem to be sort of on the same wavelength today. I don't know when that is, but
I did. So I'm just a little tapped out. This mayoral race. It's funny. It's like been more than a decade since we've had a competitive one, and I find my mayoral debate covering muscles have atrophied to some extent.
So you're exhausted, are you?
I wouldn't say exhausted so much as weary. And I was doing this.
Imagine how the candidates feel.
I don't care how they feel. That's their problem. Nobody forced them into this. So I did this WTAE debate last night, and it was funny. Yeah, it was weird.
How'd it go?
It was not thrilling.
No, they're boring. I can't watch them. I'm sick of them.
Part of it is that Peduto just doesn't take Wagner's bait. Like Wagner was like tossing the intestines into the water to see if the sharks would come up, and Peduto was just like he just wasn't doing it.
So that would have made for a better show.
Yeah, and then too the format was. I thought we were doing one kind of format. We were doing another kind of format, so it was just whatever. It didn't.
The last mayoral debate that I moderated, I guess I was the moderator, happened when Murphy was running, I think, for re-election.
So it was 97, 2001?
Maybe. It was someplace downtown. I have very foggy memory. But a big blowout happened after the fact. And do you remember this?
No, but...
I can't quite. But I had asked a question about taxes, raising school taxes or something. Mm-hmm. Murphy had answered that he favored that. That he has nothing, mayor has nothing to do with that or something. And everybody else said no, they didn't or something. The next morning, I'm getting ready to do my talk show on WTAE radio at 9 a.m. And I get a phone call in the control room. And it's from one of the mayor's campaign people. Yeah. And that woman said to me, Lynn, I just wanted to clarify with you that you understand that when you asked that question last night, the mayor said no. And I said, what? I said, he did not. He did not.
What the mayor meant to say by yes was no.
And I said, he did not. Yes, he did, she said. And there was a little back and forth. And I said, well
let's go to the tape.
What the hell? I mean, I'm going. I said, I got to go do my show. So, being me, I started up the show. I wasn't going to say boo about that. Yeah. I said, listen to what just happened. I said, I just got a call. So, I told the story on the air. And all I remember is all hell breaking loose somehow. I was called a liar. They were ready to I was stunned. This is how naive I was whenever that was. You say it's 96.
If it was 97, if it was his first reelection.
I thought, you mean this is how it works? And they thought they could play me like that?
Yeah.
That was the thing that offended me the most.
You should have just run the tape. That's what you should have done.
I don't know if there was a tape.
Oh.
It was it wasn't. No, it was a thing in front of an
Oh,
audience.
I thought it was on your. I beg your pardon.
No.
Okay.
There was no tape.
Okay, I thought it was on them.
There was no tape.
Interesting.
And we went back and forth a number of times, and there was, I think, some editorial stuff that ended up in the paper, and it was very unpleasant.
It's actually funny. I mean, you hear these campaigns, and they both, everybody's so anxious to be the victim of the cruel, unfair attacks the other. And you go back, if you look at 1993, and this is sort of interesting, because Sally Wiggins said last night, I think the last time I had multiple candidates was in 1993, which was Wagner running against Murphy, and that's when Murphy first won. You want to talk about like a negative campaign? That was a negative campaign. That was like Tom Murphy in a debate, and it might even have been the one that Ms. Wiggins moderated, basically calling out Wagner's brothers for their alleged misdeeds, like taking some copper piping out of a city-owned building to buy a party for Pete Wagner's employees when he was working for the city. Like, that was ugly. That was an ugly race. What's going on this time? Everybody's like, but it's, again, I think it's because we've just kind of forgotten. We've just kind of forgotten what a citywide contested political election can be, because we essentially haven't had one really since 2001, when O'Connor ran against Murphy. That was the last really strongly contested primary. The other thing I'll say, I probably should tell stories out of school, but I found this interesting. They had the candidates were each in a different dressing room in a sort of a different part of the building.
Oh, come on.
Because apparently the last time they had a debate was Rich Fitzgerald running for county executive against Raja, the Republican. And you may recall there were some news stories about those guys getting into it just after the debate. Because Fitzgerald, I don't know how physical it got, but apparently it got pretty testy, and apparently it had to do with Fitzgerald calling out some of Raja's political operatives as being like the nastiest, Republican, blah blah blah, and one of them came up and was like, my wife's sitting right here. How can you say that? To which I say, screw you and your wife. You're all big boys. You know what I mean? If you want to traffic in a political campaign, you can't expect to get the kids' gloves treatment just because you've got family there. That's why I leave all my family miles away when I go to these things.
Oh, God.
Although I will say, just as a final note to this is just because this is so funny. My wife filmed my kid watching me on the debate.
And what did your kid think?
This is the best part. He was kind of sort of looking at the screen and everything, and you can hear his mom say good job, Daddy. And he said good job, Daddy. And then my question is directed to AJ Richardson, who's of course the guy with the facial tattoos and the dreads and everything. Yeah. The minute AJ Richardson comes on, my kid goes, "That's not Daddy," which frankly was something of a relief to hear him say. Actually, that's not Daddy. So yeah.
I don't think my son ever watched me.
Yeah, I don't expect him to do it when he has a choice.
Yeah, please. The last thing they want to do is watch.
Right, exactly.
They're embarrassed by the fact that,
and rightfully so.
I know.
Yes. Anyway,
so okay, big story. I thought when all during yesterday's show, I was eagerly awaiting to hear the sentencing for the Ories, and it didn't come down in time. It came down right after 11. And I could not believe what I was seeing when it said house arrest. And then it got even more absurd.
Right.
I want the county photographer to take a picture of Ms. Orie in handcuffs, and we will print those out, and she is to write on the picture an apology to every judge in the Commonwealth. What is this? Grade school?
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah,
I am stunned. What is the sentencing guidelines for this kind of this many felonies? I got to tell you, it ain't house arrest.
Yeah. I mean,
What
when you think
happened?
about it, well, his explanation, as I understand it,
He didn't want to cost us money by putting them in jail?
I think prison is for dangerous
violent people.
Really? Because if that's the case, then I know a lot of people who are behind bars for like small amounts of marijuana possession or even distribution, who I don't think particularly pose any threat to me or to my neighbors or to my community.
Or any white-collar criminal should never go to jail. What's he saying?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
There's so much ridiculous here, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an outrage. It really is. And the best part is you got what's his name? Jack Orie.
No, not
calling this judge out as
Jack,
corrupt.
the
Yeah, I can't remember
the
that.
justice's husband.
Yeah, he's corrupt.
After his wife escapes jail and it gets to be home and sleep in the same bed with him every night and cook his dinner and all that stuff.
Yeah.
He acts as if she's been given the death penalty and says, wait, I got the quote here, beyond belief. Well, I had the quote here.
Yeah, basically he said...
I got it.
Oh, okay. All right.
These two, meaning the judge that sentenced her and the judge that presided at her
Manning
trial,
and Nauhaus, yeah.
Manning and Nauhaus. These two are the most corrupt judges in Allegheny County. They kept the truth out. Okay, all right. And then he goes on to say that Manning actually declared a mistrial in the case because he knew that the jury was going to acquit, and so he declared a mistrial. Well, I have to tell you,
declared a mistrial because there were forged documents submitted by her defense.
I know. So what? Okay, what I want to know is if you were Manning or Nauhaus, you wouldn't want to sue this guy for defamation?
I just realistically.
Just go after the SOB.
Yeah, I don't.
He defamed you.
Yeah, I don't think you can do it. I just.
Okay, so here's what also is very clear. None of these Ories are sorry about a thing.
No.
There's not one of them who think they did anything wrong.
That's right.
They all still believe that they are the victims of some kind of political vendetta. And when asked to say something to the court prior to her sentencing, our former justice of our Supreme Court turned to her family and said the following. I have always prided myself on being a role model for my children. So I was waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Right.
I'm so sorry. I failed you.
Right.
Oh, no. Role model for my children. I'm sorry for the loss, pain, and suffering you have endured for the last 5 years.
Right.
There's no apology there for
Right.
any action she took.
Right.
She's only sorry that this whole thing caused her children some, whatever, pain.
And then didn't her sister say something similar? Like,
Her
I'm
sister
sorry
got
for...
up. All she wanted to say is this. When Janine was asked, she said, I'm sorry for everything that's happened in this case. Yeah, like
especially the conviction part of it.
Convicted.
The end, especially.
Okay, so they are unrepentant, and usually when you have convicted felons like this who show no remorse, and in fact continue to show that same level of unbelievable arrogance and whatever. A judge usually throws the book at him.
Yep.
So, is it because he's a judge, she's a judge, and just can't imagine? Surely Nauhaus is getting earful on this.
I hope so. I mean, I just think it's human nature, I guess. If the extent to which you identify with a person, you're less likely. I mean, you're more likely to show compassion or lenience towards them would be my guess. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it. I mean, the part that just kills me is he just says this thing about, well, it would cost money and it and they don't pose a danger to the public. Well, that's part of the point of prison, as I understand it. The other part is to actually punish people for what they do. And frankly, the Ories have cost us plenty of money already. So this is, of all the expenditures that have gone to support the Orie family over the years of taxpayer dollars, this I object to less.
And this, listen to this, a former federal prosecutor thought this was very creative sentencing, he said. And he said he thought requiring her to write those apologies on the photograph was over the top.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that to the extent that it seems...
It's silly.
It's silly.
But that's not what he's saying.
Well, I don't know. That really...
this is why... Listen to why he thinks it's over the top.
All right.
This woman has lost her position. She has had to surrender her law license. Her fall has been repeated throughout the Commonwealth. I would think that would be enough degradation and humiliation for anyone.
Yeah. If humiliation was the point, and the point, I think the point is we feel like, when you don't have the thing.
Shame.
Yeah, right, exactly. The other thing that struck me, and I was curious about this, did it not say in one of these stories that the judge said you can't call yourself a justice while the sentence is in effect?
Yes.
So a couple years from now, she's going to get to go around and be justice?
Her Honor, Your Eminence, the justice. As soon as she finishes her 2 years sitting at home baking apple pies. God almighty! What the hell? Excuse me, but this is a big miscarriage of justice.
It's hard to justify. That is for sure.
Wow. And how do you think mean Miss Senator Orie thinks doing time in stir and the two sisters get to stay home?
Yeah. And it's going to make Thanksgiving a little awkward is what that's going to do.
Yeah. But I think jeez. Whoa. Unbelievable. I'm still, I can't even process it. Okay.
And here's the thing. She could be back. Look at this, Mark. This is the other thing that happened yesterday. Mark Sanford down there in South Carolina.
Oh, jeez.
Whatever, sure. Everybody makes mistakes.
Good Republicans don't care.
You can see what'll happen 5 years from now. Everybody makes mistakes. It was a bookkeeping thing. She just, it was only a couple $1,000. That's what he said that to the judge. It was only $30,000.
Why would you bother? You'd want to.
Yeah. Oh, it's hubris.
Anyway.
It's hubris.
Yeah. Oh, I had this funny thing on that Stanford winning down there. What? Unbelievable. On one level, I get where those voters are coming from in the sense that... Well, he represents their political point of view.
Yeah, so they said, it's his own personal life. How many times have we said similar things about our candidate?
But these are...
But that's the thing.
These are the family values.
Right, that's the part that's...
But you see, they have no problem with their hypocrisy.
Right.
Because they clothe it in Christian forgiveness.
Right. And it's more important for him to go to Washington so he can defend the sanctity of marriage.
That's right. And vote for things like the Defense of Marriage Act and things like that. Right. This guy wrote a piece a few days ago about it says something about us, that somebody like a Weiner, Anthony Weiner, is now, he feels he's done his penance, and so he's going to run for mayor of New York, and Sanford, he's right back, and he quotes Weiner as saying on Twitter, "It seems like a fresh start is in order."
I'm sure you think so.
Yeah, I'm sure you think so. And then he goes on to say, "I'm a better person now." Okay, great. Then he points out, that a better person would have left politics and spent the rest of his life crying in the shower. Or something. I mean, you would not...
You lose a lot of water that way.
You feel there's no shame. People do not feel shame.
But I don't think you can put him in the same category as Sanford. Do you? Sanford was like disappearing from his job.
Yes,
he was engaged in
he lied to everybody.
He lied to every resident of his state, to his wife.
Was take pictures of his penis.
Yeah, it's like, and I'm not saying that's great behavior, but on the other hand, I don't know. It just seems to me there's a slight difference in whatever there.
Well, here's what this person said about Sanford. Sanford is quoted as saying, "I failed very publicly. And this experience has given me a level of humility that, frankly, is desperately needed in Washington."
Thank you.
Believe that?
Thank you.
Oh, my God.
That's just what they need in Washington is another philandering politician to set the rest of them straight.
Humility.
Yes.
And this guy named Windsor Mann says, "Yes, indeed. What could be more humble than bragging about
your humility?" Exactly.
And he says, "What the hell is wrong with these people? Don't they have the decency to retire?"
Well,
no, they don't.
Well, why should they? I mean,
he said, "Why aren't they more like George Washington, who right before he became president," this is how far we've come in terms of what we think of as public service. George Washington said, "My movements to the chair of government will be accompanied with feelings not unlike those of a culprit who is going to the place of his execution."
That's the spirit. Go ahead, caller.
Good morning, everybody. It's Dave from Washington.
Hi, Dave.
Hey, Dave.
I am going to come to Sanford's defense.
All right.
This guy, without planning it, without wanting it to happen, out of the clear blue sky,
met the woman of his dreams.
fell in love with somebody.
Oh.
Exactly.
Okay, violins now.
Well, yeah, but, the whole thing is you can't really control who you fall in love with.
Right.
I mean, ask any gay person out there. And who hasn't made mistakes, because their little heart went,
You're a man of what age? You have children.
I realize that.
You have a
all
wife,
that.
and you literally disappear from your job. I mean, if you were a 17-year-old in love, I could comprehend it. But this says something about him. This says something about
the power of the whole emotion. It's a brain thing.
He's a narcissist.
It's like an infusion of cocaine or
he's a narcissist. Now, if you saw the woman, you would have fallen in love with her too, right?
I've actually never seen a photo of her.
What? Did you see her?
Yeah.
I haven't.
She's friggin' gorgeous.
Really? Yeah. I've never seen a picture.
She is a total babe. Yeah. He had her out on the campaign.
But even in this case, it seems to me it was more than just, oh my goodness, she's a cutie, and he went out and had a fling with her. He truly went head over heels in love with the woman. And I have fallen in love with people that in hindsight I wish I hadn't.
Right.
And knowing full well at the time that this was a wrong thing to do, but boy, I'll tell you what, your brain, you can sometimes a struggle between your heart and your brain. Sometimes your brain wins, sometimes your heart wins.
Sometimes other organs are involved.
Yeah. See,
well, then there's that too.
Thank you. Because I was going to say, I don't think the struggle is brain and heart. I think you need to go further south.
Yeah, but even that is still, it's very real.
Yeah, it certainly is.
Wow. It's
and
hard
I'm not
to
going to fault
ignore.
anybody. I'm not going to fault anybody for falling in love with somebody because it happened.
That's fine.
Like I say,
that was not his crime, falling in love.
Well, in a sense, then of course he handled it wrong, but everybody does. Of course he handled it wrong. He had a family and all of that, and I understand all of that. But the whole point of so much of what's going on today is you can't control who you fall in love with.
You think that's at the core of our troubles?
Well, a lot of the struggles as far as like gay rights and things. Isn't that the whole thing? You're allowed to marry whoever you fall in love with?
Yeah,
or, who are you to tell me who I can and cannot fall in love with? It's something that happens. You don't do it consciously.
Yeah.
You don't set out to find somebody to fall head over heels in love with.
Okay, well, I remember when he got caught. And I said at the time, I have to tell you, I think this is refreshing. I did say, because unlike every
he didn't just say, it was a fling.
A fling, or she's a slut,
or
he said, I love her. He was
exactly.
No, but
exactly.
there was something better about that. But I'm sorry. He's a narcissist. That's all it is. And when you can say that he starts talking about now, because of this humiliation that I've suffered, I am a more humble person.
Well, then there's that crap, yeah.
Well, but he's a jerk.
Well, take, for instance, who was the King of England who fell in love with the woman and had to abdicate the throne?
That neo-Nazi, George.
Yeah, neo-Nazi.
No, it wasn't
exactly.
George.
But still the
Edward.
exact same
Edward.
thing. The exact same thing.
Yeah, it wasn't
You
George.
can't control these things. Now, if Sanford had just quietly retired with his new little Argentina wife, then that probably would have been preferable. To use this as part of your why they should vote for you, that's ridiculous.
There's actually
But as far as the guy just falling in love with somebody uncontrollably, that I perfectly understand, and I'm not going to give him crap for that. Everything else, I'll give him crap about a whole bunch of other things, but not about that.
There's something you said before that I guess I'd have to think about a little bit, which is that if we support the implication of what you said before is that if we support the idea that people who are in same-sex relationships have a right to be in those relationships because they themselves didn't necessarily choose who to be attracted to, that there's somehow an equivalence between that and what a Sanford does, I'd really have to think about whether that's the same thing or not. I'm not entirely convinced that it is because but I'm having a hard time saying exactly what that distinction is, and I guess that maybe that's something to think about after we take our commercial break.
Hey, that's not your job.
5 minutes elapsed.
Hey, Dave, thanks for the call.
Thanks for the call,
You're
man.
welcome. Bye-bye.
You poor besotted romantic.
Oh, yes. Love springs eternal in Washington, PA.
Indeedy. Okay,
It's the Paris of Washington County, I understand. So
we're taking a break.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Give the gift of beauty and youth this Mother's Day. Join us Saturday, May 11th for a day of rejuvenation, skincare, and fun at the Sewickley Med Spa. Purchase one microdermabrasion and Mom gets a free microdermabrasion. Log on to SewickleyMedSpa.com or call 412-259-8628 for details. Sewickley Med Spa is conveniently located in downtown Sewickley at 435 Broad Street. Happy Mother's Day from the Sewickley Med Spa.
Pittsburgh City Paper is seeking 10 local artists to design their own street box for our second annual public art project to be featured throughout the city of Pittsburgh. Go to www.pghcitypaper.com and click on the Art Box link for more details. The Pittsburgh City Paper Art Box Project, brought to you by the Westmoreland and Hill House Association.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
All right.
we're ogling pictures of Sanford's knees squeezed, very thoughtfully sent to us by
and
PJ.
I don't even think they do her justice. I saw her.
She's quite comely.
Yeah, she's very attractive, and they're very in love. Fine. Great. Okay. I'm trying to think. Is there another biggie story we got to deal with immediately?
Well, everyone's talking about those
Cleveland
people, but I have to say it's a story I've just sort of seen sideways while I was looking at something else, and it was on the TV. It's one of those stories that you sort of acquire it by osmosis. So
most people are sitting. This is the kind of story that grips people. You're not one of them. I'm not one of them either, particularly because these are the stories that media go
all out with.
Just crazy.
Well, understandably
with.
so. I mean,
because it's accessible to everybody.
Right.
It involves everything we love for entertainment: sex, violence, reunion, love, pluck, courage. Horrific story, but ultimately a happy ending. I mean, it's got it all.
Like you can hear people working on the script treatments for the made-for-TV movies already.
No, I've already had it up to here. Yeah. So
okay, so let's not talk about it.
No, I'm sorry. If you want to, if certain issues come up in the course of this, I'll maybe discuss it. But I don't know what to say. everybody's loving the neighbor because he's.
I confess that I did hear, the one thing I have heard was the tape of his 911 call.
It wasn't his call, it was her call.
No, he called as well. They both called, and he called at the same time. And his call started this way, 911 emergency dispatch. Hey, bro.
He's a cool customer.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so, but I have to say, speaking of the 911 call, I thought the person she had on the line was not very good at it. I
haven't heard.
Okay, I just thought they seemed pretty, I don't know. I mean, maybe you're supposed to be just very,
I think you are.
without affect. But,
I think you are.
Okay, whatever. But he said some very funny things. I happened to hear he was doing an interview, and I was in my car, and I have satellite radio, so I was hearing this. Very funny. He said something like, hey, I play music with the guy. We're barbecuing in his backyard. We're doing salsa and blah, blah, blah. And he said, man, you got to have some big testicles to do that.
Yeah, right.
And then to blah, blah, blah. And then he says, what was the funny thing he said? Oh, God. It wasn't the testicle line. What was it?
I don't know.
He said a bunch of funny things. Oh, he said, no, he's just a regular guy. I mean, he's just a normal guy. I mean, nothing in particularly, I won't get it right because I don't have exactly, nothing that would draw your attention to him. And then there's a perfect pause. Until now. Something like that. It was just a riot.
Yeah.
Guy has more personality in his little finger than... anyway. He's a good guy. A lot of people wouldn't have done what he did. He did. He's a good guy. So, I have to tell you this. I had I saw a movie late last night that blew my mind, and I have to discuss this with you a little bit.
Okay.
Except we have a caller. Hello.
Hey, Lynn. Hey, Chris.
Hey.
Hi.
How are you?
Fine.
Fine pair today.
Good. Fine.
Hey, I don't fault Mark Sanford for falling in love with another woman, another person. That's fine. But as you said, he was a 50-year-old man with a long marriage and 4 children.
Yeah.
So
right.
the thing to do then is to man up and either decide he's going to work on his relationship with his wife and children, or else, before anything happens extramaritally, go to her and tell her, I'm sorry, the marriage is broken, I just am not committed to this anymore, we need to divorce.
Right.
And I can even forgive the adultery. I mean, I was of the opinion, and still am of the opinion, that what happened with Bill Clinton was entirely between himself, his wife, his daughter, and his God.
Right.
And it had nothing to do
Monica
with
too.
his job. However, in Mark Sanford's case,
Right.
it had a lot to do with his job.
Yeah.
I imagine if any of us 3 just didn't show up for work for more than a week and was totally incommunicado, that we'd be fired. I mean, it's utterly absurd to think that this man, who not only disappeared from his job as governor of a state for more than a week, lied to people about his whereabouts, and I'll simply use this word, embezzled state funds in order to fly on, using South Carolina's money to fly to Argentina to engage in his tryst,
right,
and then fly back under false pretenses, is still then worthy of being elected to a post in federal government.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, but the good Christian and conservative voters of his district don't agree.
Yes, and now's when they dust off the old forgiveness line, right?
As
Christians,
that is the other thing that's just outrageous.
Oh, I know, they're Christians. Better than you.
This entire idea that in their version of Christianity, it's the whole cheap grace principle. I don't know if you've ever heard of that term.
Yeah.
It's the idea that essentially one simply says, I've asked God for forgiveness, and He's given it to me.
And that's it.
Right.
Wow,
And that's
is that
it.
easy?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I'm like, well, all right.
Okay,
I can
God's a
believe
real
that
easy
if
grader.
You say that you're not going to engage
Yeah.
in these sorts of
Yeah.
shenanigans anymore, and you believe you've been forgiven by God. Wonderful. That doesn't mean that you're then entitled to regain what you had
Well,
without consequences.
That's right, but the good Christian voters of his district disagree. Hey, thank you for your outraged call.
Well,
thank you.
I gotta say, if Lynn Cullen didn't show up for a week, boy,
Ha! Ha!
there goes that paycheck.
Shut up. Okay. So I get home last night
All
from
right,
a
just,
stupid trivia contest in which
You lost?
Yes, I lost big because here is like under the topic current events. One of the questions was.
Are we gonna have to hear the whole?
No.
Look at it.
Let's see if you can answer
Okay.
it.
All right, I'm ready.
Under current events.
Yeah.
Honey Boo Boo's mother got married the other day. What is the name of her husband? All right, fine. You know it's Sugar Bear. I don't watch that crap. I put Billy Bob. I didn't know.
Billy Bob is not a bad guess, really. Sugar Bear. Jesus Christ.
No,
yeah,
so
no,
it's a young
yes.
crowd. I'm
Yes.
definitely the oldest person in the room. But that's what current events is for 20-somethings.
I don't know.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
Tom would have known.
Anyway, so you came home from this traumatic experience.
And I
And?
watched the rest of the Penguin game.
And then you watched a movie.
And then at some point I was watching a movie on an old movie.
Yes.
And I always think I've seen every old movie.
Okay.
I had never seen this one. It was called Crossfire. I came in at the end.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Good stars, all three named Robert. Get this.
Okay.
Robert Mitchum,
Yes.
Robert Young,
Yeah.
and Robert Ryan.
Okay.
Can you picture them all? No.
Just the one. Just Mitchum.
Mitchum?
Yeah.
Really?
Mhm.
Come on! Robert Young was like Marcus Welby, MD. Wasn't he? He was Father Knows
I don't know.
Best.
Listen,
That was before.
what I love is you were just dissing people for knowing who Honey Boo Boo's father-in-law is going to be or whatever. But I'm the idiot for not knowing who played Marcus Welby. Thank you. This is the problem. You old people have no sense of proportion about what's really important.
All right, so anyway, they're all like in the military, and one of them is accused of killing this guy. As I'm watching it, it turns, and it's clear this guy didn't kill the guy. And Mitchum and the others are trying to help
Frame him.
No.
Oh, to get him out.
Mitchum's
Yes,
trying
okay.
to help
Okay.
him. Young is trying to help toward the end.
Yes.
And the actual killer is Robert Ryan. Okay. So,
Okay, got it.
on the military. And then it turns out that the guy they killed was a Jew. And this is part of the thing, that he was a Jew. At one point, somebody said, as they're walking out of the room, something about you dirty Jew. And I said, what? What? This is a movie made in 1947, okay?
Right.
Now, this is right after
Why would
the
anybody feel the
Holocaust.
need to be sensitive to Jews in 1947?
Okay, so...
Get over it. It was weeks ago.
Jeez! Well, here, now wait, though. It gets better.
Okay.
So, it was about anti-Semitism.
Oh, okay.
They set it up so that they dealt with this Jew hate that drove people, to kill. And so there were lots of opportunities for speeches being given about, and I quickly wrote down one. They brought up immigration. This one guy was trying to explain to a guy from Kentucky about immigration. It was important. It was important
Right.
he was from Kentucky.
Right, because he was a young Mitch McConnell in his first role.
That's right.
Okay.
And he said something about, look, my parents were Irish Catholics, and when they came here, they were treated, like, they were scum and blah, blah, blah. But America has always been about bringing in different people. And
treating them like scum when they get here.
That's right. And so he talked about, he said, hate is, I started scribbling. He said, hate is always the same. One day it kills Irish Catholics. One day it kills Jews.
Right.
Who's next? Well, we can tell them who's next, blah, 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 blah. And then they go off on something where he says to the guy from Kentucky, now, are you allowed to carry, he's in uniform. He said, are you allowed to carry a gun now? And the guy said, well, no. And he said, of course not. And why is that? And the guy says, this is 1947,
right.
Because in a moment of anger, we might use that gun. Guns are dangerous. So I'm saying, I feel like I've lost my mind. I'm watching this 1947 movie. Anyway, it ends. The good guys win. The Jew's still dead, but And then at the end, this guy comes on to give you a little more information about the movie. Listen to this. It was based on a book that did not use a Jew as the victim.
But a
homosexual.
Really?
And they wouldn't touch that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because I guess in 1947, it was still okay to kill homosexuals.
Well, that or they just didn't even want to.
They couldn't even
talk about it without running to go against the.
But I found it fascinating that in 1947, right after, blink after the Holocaust, that there was someone felt it was a perfectly okay thing to try to educate Americans that Jews should not be killed.
Was the title of the film Crossfire? Was that like a double entendre? Was like the killer motivated by some fundamentalist Christianity kind of thing?
No.
Like Crossfire?
No. It's just pure hate.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then the other interesting thing is that the director and the producer, whose names I didn't get, the director and producer of this film were called before the House.
I was going to ask.
Were called before the House Un-American Activities Committee.
Where they were asked, what exactly do you have against hate?
Both went to jail.
Yeah, right. Not surprising.
The people who made this movie about anti-Semitism is not good, hate is not good, and guns are not good in 1947 ended up in jail.
Yep.
In the United States of America. Is that mind-blowing?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
How did the movie do box office-wise? Do you know?
Well, the fact that I'd never seen it and I would think it didn't do well.
Yeah, I would also.
No one likes these uncomfortable, well, there's a preachiness to it at the end. And people don't like preachiness. I just happened to see the other day the Matt Damon movie that was made here, Promised Land.
Yeah.
Which is about
the
gas companies coming in and buying up land for fracking. And, they pretended that it was relatively neutral. It's not relatively neutral. It's an anti-fracking movie. And I'm on their side, but I thought the movie was awful because it's preachy. If you want to get the point across, I mean, you got to be more subtle, I think.
I haven't seen it, so
I thought it was preachy. Preachy. Okay, before you tell me to take another break, I am going to do that because it annoys me no end when you
That's what I'm here for.
When you do that. All right, so we'll take a quick break and be right back.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
This is the sound of a flat-screen television hurled off a building. Now the new bike your kid wants. These are the things you could have, all cast into oblivion. Because when you throw away money on wasted electricity, you throw away everything you could have bought with it. Use Energy Star light bulbs and appliances, and you could save hundreds of dollars a year. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, go. Is that... I'm here. So, Potter.
Yes?
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Do you have a green thumb?
No, it doesn't. I do some gardening, but I'm not particularly
Well,
adept.
I want to direct your attention to the best gardening spot. Even though you're a suburban person, this is called the urban gardener. And I think if you sort of wear sunglasses, they'll let you in anyway.
North Side?
North Side.
I know this place, actually.
It's wonderful. Brighton Road.
Yes.
You do know him?
In fact, I'm actually planning to call them later today.
Are you kidding?
I'm actually not kidding about this. I'm looking for chokeberry bushes, so...
Wow!
Yeah, there you go.
All right. And in fact, so Potter's already on top of it. The urban gardener, they got it all. You'll find your chokeberry bushes there.
And they're going to make a pie out of them just for you, Lynn.
And they have 300 species of all kinds of stuff. From shrubs to trees to vines to perennials to annuals to, wind chimes.
Oh.
Things like that. Little things. I bought some of the wonderful the accessory kind of stuff for gardens there. I just love this place. And they'll also do design consultation for you if you really want a nice garden. And they'll even do maintenance for you if you're a lazy bum. So, the Urban Gardener, 1901 Brighton Road. Check them out, urbangardenerpgh.com. And then head on over there. And when you're at the cash register,
okay,
mention my name. That's 5% off your chokeberry bush. Okay?
All right.
You get a discount. Urban Gardener. Love it.
Go to BurkeBargains.com for great deals on gift cards from your favorite local restaurants, bars, museums, attractions, and shows. Like us on Facebook or sign up for our weekly email updates for your chance to win a family 4-pack of tickets to Kennywood. BurkeBargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. BurkeBargains.com.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
I mean, when it's called a chokeberry, it sounds like something you shouldn't put in your mouth.
Right. Well, again, that's why I was going to make the pie for you to eat. All right, Joseph writes in
no way, shape, or form does Honey Boo Boo compare to actor Robert Young, a well-known and respected actor of the 40s through the 70s. I hope, Mr. Potter, you were just joking when you chastised Lynn for expecting you to know who Mr. Young was. I think you need to tune into Turner movie classic movies or something more often to learn this country's movie heritage so you can pass it on to your young one. Not to mention, learn for yourself. Man,
Well,
that was tough.
I've drawn fire on this show, but never heard of something like that. We don't even have cable, so my child regrettably will grow up ignorant of both Robert Young and Honey Boo Boo.
Well, that is too bad, because my son was raised on old movies, and he, to this day, I mean, he stole my complete set of Marx Brothers movies.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Marx Brothers. Have you seen them?
I have seen Marx Brothers.
Do you agree
they are quite good? Yeah.
Pretty funny.
Yeah.
Okay. I love old movies. I will watch a bad old movie before most current movies.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
Will you stop? Will you stop dismissing me like that?
What? I was just saying.
Well,
sure.
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
I was affirming you.
Affirming. It's not how I took it. Okay, so I just wanted to let you know that at 9:45 this morning, Pittsburgh police officer named Sergeant Matthew Gauntner was seen entering the federal courthouse and the grand jury room. Sergeant Gauntner, as it turns out, was still one of the mayor's bodyguards. So that's still happening.
Percolating away.
And yesterday they saw a bunch of more files being taken out that had to do with parking variances, which I guess has to do. A variance means that you don't. A variance is what people who know people get. Is that not right?
Frequently, that is the case.
That frequently is right, because this is a very corrupt kind of a government we have here. And so if you don't want to abide by the parking rules and you know someone, you could get a parking variance. Well, it turns out that those are granted by the police. And then it turns out that most parking variances go to these companies that do valet parking for events or restaurants or this and that. And guess what? This is a big shocker, too. That, like, one of the biggest ones, the one in Market Square with all those restaurants there, is owned by the husband of a Pittsburgh police officer. And they've gotten variances upon variances, apparently.
Yeah, he's also a committeeman, I believe. Democrat.
All right, fine.
Yeah.
I hate this crap. So it could, but see, the feds now, there could be criminal activity here. Yeah.
Yeah, that is why you convene a grand jury.
So what I'm wondering is what do you think? Is Ravenstall still in some jeopardy, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, honestly,
you just don't have a clue.
You got it. I mean, I don't know why else. I don't know why else you'd be calling in a bodyguard. You know?
Why'd they be calling in the mayor's bodyguard? Right.
Yeah. Well, the great
Ray says that my guessing Billy Bob was a good one, but blind Billy Bob would have been better. Mm-hmm. Are you suggesting that only a blind man would marry that gorgeous woman?
Jeez.
Ray.
People are tough today.
They are.
This whole Honey Boo Boo thing has really brought out some animosity.
Just terrible animosity toward people. All right, so there's more than a shoe or two to drop yet on this. Would, if other corruption-y kinds of things happen prior to the election, the primary election, could that conceivably hurt Jack Wagner because of his seemingly being, the Ravenstall choice?
I don't know. I mean, you'd have to kind of assume that a lot of that stuff is just baked in at this point, right? I mean, certainly Bill Peduto has tried very, very hard to link, to make these links between Wagner and the coterie around Ravenstall obvious. And I feel like, if that hasn't sunk in by now, I'm not sure that Ravenstall will be in even more trouble, But I could be wrong about that. There could be people who are supporting Wagner who didn't think that Luke did anything wrong, and then maybe an actual indictment would cause them to rethink that position, and maybe they sit it out or whatever. I don't know. It's hard to say.
I was surprised by the Post-Gazette's endorsement of Wagner. Were you?
Ever since the Corbett endorsement, nothing really surprises me.
So I thought this was supposed to be our liberal newspaper. So all they do is endorse Republicans.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the thing is that both those endorsements kind of had a similar feel to me of sort of where the end result was somehow less than the sum of its parts. Like if you read any given sentence, it kind of felt like, well, these are good arguments for Peduto.
Two.
Yeah, and it's very odd. I mean, it's just sort of, on the one hand,
who wrote that thing?
I don't know. I'll just say this, and this is completely uninformed speculation on my part.
Oh, I love this stuff. Uninformed.
This feels to me like maybe publisher J.R. Block might have had some input on this.
Well,
one.
The publisher is the one who forced them into the Corbett.
Corbett one, that's correct. Yeah.
So the block before this block didn't do that kind of thing.
Right.
This, didn't say, hey, this is my paper and I want it to reflect. But this block, he's a rich guy. He's a Republican.
It's just, this is a paper who, if memory serves, years back was in favor of consolidating governments, including the city and the county.
Right.
And now one of their concerns is Bill Peduto is too close to Rich Fitzgerald, and so he'll lose independence. Well,
what?
First of all, even if and as Peduto, we asked Peduto about that. We have some election stuff in this week's issue, and we interviewed him before the Post-Gazette endorsement came out, and we asked him very explicitly about his relationship to Rich Fitzgerald, and Peduto said two things. One, anybody who knows Rich and anybody who knows me knows that we're essentially too strong-willed to either yield to each other. And you got to remember, these two guys had years of animosity.
Yes, they did.
After the Cohen campaign, Peduto said they didn't talk for like 5-6 years after that. And then he said the other thing too is back in the day, Luke's close relationship to Dan Honorato was cited as a point in Luke's favor.
That's right.
Because it's
that
a close
correct.
partnership between those guys.
That's
so it's
right.
a very odd situation. Two, the paper also said, he's been on the side of the anti-mayor faction on council, and very often for good reason. But on the other hand, he has too much of a hostile relationship with the pro-mayor faction on council, and we just feel he's too invested in all that stuff.
It sounded like gobbledygook.
It was a very strained. Yeah, it was an odd thing. But the other thing too is, and I wrote about this a little bit this week. Let's face it. If you looked at the ideas, stuff Bill Peduto was basically the only guy in this race 6 months ago saying some of the stuff that he was saying. He's the only guy saying we need to keep Pittsburgh in Act 47 and all this other stuff. We need to, he's the only guy saying that stuff. Now those opinions, Wagner has them too. So what was a sort of minority of one position a few months ago is now very likely to be the official administration policy, no matter who wins.
So Wagner co-opted.
So Wagner, I don't want to say he co-opted. Certainly he adopted, but what Wagner has, the big advantage Wagner has is he's able to adopt a platform. And I don't necessarily take a position on whether he steals it from Peduto or not. Wagner has his own ideas, and some of the ideas he's saying now were anticipated by things he was saying 20 years ago. But he's able to adopt a platform that he didn't have to fight for. He hasn't been slugging it out in council, so he's able to come in and portray himself as above the fray because he just hasn't been around.
He hasn't been in the fray. But when he was in the fray, when he was on council, he actually got tossed off the presidency.
Yeah, but you gotta put some of that on. Remember the people he was dealing with, and I let's apply the same rule.
We got a caller.
Peduto's dealing with some characters now, just as Wagner was back then.
Hi.
Hey, I wanted to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Maybe you know the answer. Now, as the Republicans get rid of the good-paying jobs, the retirement, screw Social Security, is that when I use my AK-47? I need to know. We'll see you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Yes, I think that would be a good time. All you'll be left with is your AK-47.
Right.
Remember, who was it? Was it Coolidge, a chicken in every pot?
Yeah, no.
Harding?
Yeah.
It was Coolidge.
One of those guys. I feel like it was Harding.
Silent Cal, maybe. And now it's
no,
an
it wasn't
AK.
Harding.
Okay.
It was not Harding. Maybe Hoover.
Nah. I think it's Coolidge.
Yeah, well, anyway.
A chicken in every pot. And look at 100 years later, it's now an AK-47 in every hand.
In the hand of every toddler.
Hoover.
Sup? But I don't know who Robert Young is, so I'm the dummy.
All right, let's not be an obnoxious winner.
I'll try. Too late.
Okay, so Delaware now has joined the list. They are the 11th state. We've passed 10. We're now on to 11th state to say, yep, you gay Delawareans are equal in every way, and you can go get married. Meanwhile, back here in the hinterlands, known as Pennsylvania, there is a bill that has been proposed.
Yes.
That would, here's where we're at in this struggle, would add gays to the state discrimination laws.
So it would be as illegal
they're not protected in Pennsylvania with that law now.
In some places they are. Pittsburgh, for example.
Pittsburgh and Philly, but the minute you walk into Mount Lebanon, you're screwed.
I think Allegheny County might too.
All right, whatever. But no, so this is how far behind we are. And believe it or not, it is doubtful, I believe, that bill will pass the legislature in Harrisburg. So our representatives in Harrisburg will be on record as opposed to even giving protection from discrimination to gays.
Yeah. I will say this is
one of these things that makes you want to.
This bill, the last I saw, I think it had something like 23 co-sponsors in the Senate, which is more than it's ever had. Which is more than it's ever had in the Senate. So, I mean, I'm not trying to be, Pollyannish about this, but I mean, progress.
Oh, for God's
however
sake.
slowly is being made.
We, as usual, will be the last ones to. It's as.
2 steps forward, 1 step back. It was an interesting. Somebody, I think it was John Mysick.
State.
And it's important too for the marriage thing because I think John Mysick is a reporter out in Harrisburg noted, none of the states that have legalized gay marriage, all of those states already had a thing barring discrimination. So it's kind of like. Is that sort of the first necessary step? And it makes sense. I think people can wrap their heads around. If you can't wrap your heads around, I shouldn't be able to fire you just because you're gay, then you're probably not going to be able to get behind the marriage thing either. So this is absolutely an important first step to make. And I don't think the rest of it can happen until this does. So there's a long ways to go.
We're pathetic.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try again. I'll be Pollyannish on this just because it's the only. I have a strong psychological need to be optimistic about this because it's the only thing that there's been progress on in the right direction in my lifetime in many ways. And so you're talking about thousands of years of just, social discrimination and hatred and intolerance, millennia that's been going on in one way, shape, or another.
It is amazing how it is so quickly.
So just a few decades, really
evaporating, but. Boy, we'll be one of the last holdouts.
Yep.
I think gay people in Pennsylvania will be one of the last. We'll be with all those southern states in denying, it'll cost us because young gay people, given a choice, I've said this before, of taking a job in Philly or taking a job in some state that will allow them to marry. It's no contest.
And the sad thing is, I'm not even sure. I can't remember polling data. I'm not sure that it's Pennsylvanians per se that are any farther behind the ball than the people in Delaware. It's the political culture is distinct from what people actually want. I think is really the issue. If you went out and if we had a referendum on whether gay people should be discriminated against, whether that should be legal or not. I just have an intuitive sense that probably most Pennsylvanians would say, no, there should be a law against firing somebody just because they're gay. Mm-hmm. But the culture here doesn't, or the political structure doesn't reflect it.
Okay, but listen, we're done.
Okay.
And I have a ball game I have to go to.
All right, well, enjoy.
Ooh, you have a scratch. Is that an outdoor scratch?
Yeah, probably.
Is that from a chokeberry bush?
No.
That looks like a... when I garden, I have I end up with calluses and I'm a mess. It's like I need a machete and
I've been to your house. It's not that bad.
And that's what that was supposed to be a compliment. I've been to your house. It's not that bad. Well, I've been to your house.
And it is.
Yeah. All right, that's the end of that. Tomorrow, Sokolowski.
Very good.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.